If you use Spotify to listen to music, you'll know that at the end of each year, they do this kind of visual thing that shows you all the music that you've been listening to over the last 12 months. And, in 2021, my top 5 songs were from one album by Upper Room. And in fact, it was the first 5 songs on the Land of the Living live album. And the reason for that is in 2021, I had a lot of cave time. Let me be honest with you for just a moment. Throughout that year, and I, especially early on in the year, I found myself increasingly overwhelmed by much of what was going on. And bearing in mind, we were at the mercy of so much that was outside of our control. And there were financial pressures personally, and when it comes to the life of the church, there were huge emotional pressures. There were times it felt like the rug had just been pulled out from underneath our feet. Everything was changing. Everything we'd known for almost 20 plus years was suddenly up in the air. There were difficult conversations being had. We were charting new territory as a church, and we were looking for buildings, but we were getting knocked back by landlords. I was looking for venues and finding doors constantly shut. And, there was so many pressures, so much going on. And all through that, trying to keep a stable family life that was good and healthy. And I would be confident in saying that 2021 was probably the greatest assault on my own mental health that I've ever experienced. But I have to thank God, because in the summer of 2019, God prepared me for what was ahead. I didn't realize it at the time, but because of various other things that were happening in 2019, I began to really struggle with depressive thoughts. And I found my mind going down that path of depression. And thankfully, I'd read some really good books and I'd listened to some healthy podcasts that I was able to spot the early signs of that and just press into God and begin to take authority over my mind. And over the course of a summer, and I believe I've shared this before, God did a work on me that helped me deal with some things that had been really the cause of pressure on my life over many years that were resulting now in me feeling pushed down and despondent and depressed. And God was able to turn all of that around. But because of that, God taught me to do something. He taught me, which prepared me for 2021. He taught me to go into my cave and worship. And the reason why those 5 tracks made it to the top 5 of my most listened to music in 2021 is because throughout that year, I would go into my cave and I would just put that album on, and it would lead me into a better place. It would help lead me in worship. And I'd put on track 1, and I'd allow the Holy Spirit to come down and rest on me. And then I'd listen to track 2 and be reminded that I have a hope in God, that I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And then track 3, I would recommit my life to Jesus, declaring all my ambitions, my hopes, my dreams, my life, let it be a sacrifice just to bless you. And then in track 4, I'd find myself at the foot of the cross again, just in awe of all that Jesus had done. And then track 5, I'd step back into the battle, knowing that his name is breakthrough. His name is victory. It's a phenomenal album, to lead me just the first 5 tracks through that whole process. And what I can say confidently is that God never left me alone in the cave. It's not that he answered all my prayers, and it's not that he revealed all of his plans. Gosh, I wish he would do that sometimes. But he always reminded me who was in control. He always granted me, and he always grants me, access into his throne of grace.